Good morning. Nice to be with you this morning. I am presently open to your questions. I'm still kind of in the middle of getting set up. But I am ready. If you have any questions, please post them, and questions or comments, and I'm more than willing to talk about them. This is a subject that I really love to talk about when it relates to Genesis. So we have all kinds of issues there about creation, about the early world, kinds of issues there about creation, about the early world. There's we like to put dinosaurs in the beginning of the spirits and all kinds of stuff in the book of Genesis. But I tried to this morning present as clearly as I could an interpretation that works with the rest of the message of Scripture. So I see there's a few people online. If you're listening, please feel free to put in your comments. I'm assuming this is Emily, or is it both of you, Kyle and Emily? Thanks for watching this morning, and appreciate that. So there's at least 2 moments in this sermon that I couldn't go any further. There wasn't time to be opening those that can of worms. One of them was the culture, the degree of degree of technology, the height of technology of that time, and what proof do we have of what they were able to do? Well, if we're going to believe what the Bible is saying about Noah, and I don't know if Noah had workmen, some people that worked with him, or else maybe just his family. I don't know. Even for 75 years, building the ark for 75 years, which, by the way, Noah didn't build the ark for 120 years. He couldn't have built the ark for 120 years. God told him when he was 500, and the flood came on the earth when he was 600. So at the very most, it can be 100 years, but it can't be even that much. You remember that he had sons. And, the next chapter actually tells of one of his sons having a child 2 years after the flood. So that being the case, if his sons came with him on the ark, and his sons had wives, I'm assuming that that Noah didn't start building right at the moment that God told him, but at some point anyway. So that's why I say roughly 75 years Noah was building this ark. But so if Noah was able to build such a structure that withstood a world cataclysm, what else was possible? And so I believe that Noah's culture was at its industrial peak while he worked on this ark. The worldwide flood acted as a technological reset, and it really erased the inventions and the writings, unless they were brought into the ark by Noah, right? So, but all the rest were all destroyed and erased. So I call this the reset, right? So despite this setback, Genesis chapter 11 tells us that mankind set about building a city with a tower that reaches the heavens, it says, reaches the heavens. I don't know exactly how high that was or what high was at that time, but I'm assuming that it was taller than a 4-floor condo, let's say. So again, some technology required there. So then, if you remember what happens next in the story, that God confuses the languages and people then spread out throughout the world. So some groups, I'm assuming, struggled. We have maybe evidence of that, that some people really struggled as nomads, and others thrived. So within a few centuries from that point, that there were people that were able to build, for instance, the great pyramids of Egypt, right, which are a technological marvel even today, or Stonehenge, if you've ever heard of Stonehenge in England. But just two examples of two examples that really showcase the engineering capabilities of the ancient world. And that after two major setbacks in the development of science and technology. And so I think that they were actually quite advanced. And as scripture tells us, they were also quite advanced at wickedness and evil and violence. And so this is the reason why God decided to act the way that he did. Thank you, Guy. And yeah, everyone is talking about the Great Reset, the Great Political Reset. That's not at all what God has his own reset. But the political reset, I mean, man, that's stay close to God, right? At some point, I don't know, I can spend an awful lot of time, with watching, what's happening in the political front. Okay, so what are good signs or habits of ready Christian? Signs or habits of ready Christian. I stated, well, anyways, if I'm drawing from the sermon today, I think that, again, if we live in a culture of distraction, and that is evident in so many ways. And I think that Christians need to be different, and in some key ways, and those differences need to be, visible. I find that people have a hard time with staying quiet, and by quiet again, I'm not just talking about the absence of noise. I'm talking about without any, without having to be entertained, without having just to be thinking, and to be concerned with the most important things for a greater a greater part of the day. Right? We distract ourselves, and there are so many ways that we can distract ourselves. So wickedness, we talked about. I remember, my mom and dad talking about how to be separate and into the way that people talk, the way that people think, the things that people do forward, in the final days, that holiness is going to be for righteousness, and that he lived his life completely differently from the world. Not abortion, euthanasia is very good. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Petkov. And yeah, Montreal is certainly a video gaming center, even you could say of the world. You know, I mean, unless you're part of that, you realize, you know, AI and all of that is really, really big in Montreal. Yeah. So I think that's good enough. Thank you so much for paying attention and for being part of this chat as well. And the Lord bless you, and have a great Sunday.